I did not actually accidentally end the video. I came back and I began my story of therapeutic boarding school. I got a minute and a half in maybe, and then the video just ended. So I guess I have a time limit. I'm not sure. Anyway, Montana Academy, 7 teams, odd number boys, even number girls. It didn't seem that there was any rhyme or reason to the distribution. So there was very little time or availability to actually talk to people who weren't on your team. In school, really, that was the only time. So, like, the dorms were set up like 2 bunk beds to a room, and your roommates would be on your team. You would eat at a table with your team. You had group therapy with your team and your team therapist. We had a team leader who was a hired person who would just like be with us whenever the team was together. Our team leader was Marielle, and she was everybody's mom. She was older, probably in her sixties. She was a grandmother, and she really like was kind of the backbone of that place in a lot of ways. Her her son-in-law, I think, also worked there, and she was just always there. And she was she was my big saving grace because she seemed to get me, and she said that I reminded her of her when she was younger, and she ended up, I'll get to that later, I guess. I'm this juxtaposed with our team therapist, Victoria. I'm using her real name, even though I'm not going to say nice things about her. Oh, shit! Sorry. My Dionysus beads came undone. Something I can do now. Victoria was in her like early 30s, and she was like recently divorced. She'd been married to a guy who had also been a therapist at Montana Academy, and he had left her and Montana Academy, apparently to go be like a rock star or something. She didn't like men. And I got just a distinct impression that she was like, that in like 4th, 5th grade area time, middle school area time, that she was like hot shit and very popular, and maybe part of a sorority, like she seemed girl power, I guess. She was a horse girl too, which is fine. I love horses. But she had no idea what was going on with me. It seemed to me that I had been living by this rule, just false confidence will get you everywhere. So I could be very arrogant, and I didn't seem like anxious or awkward until like I did. But she really bought it. Like, she felt that I had to be taken down a peg, which was impossible because I was looking up at all the pegs, like I hated myself. So, like, but she did get through to me, and we were able to work together. At one point, this was brilliant of her. First of all, she introduced me to the idea of growth versus fixed mindsets of intelligence. For instance, in the U.S. and a lot of Western cultures, it's believed that you are born with a certain amount of intelligence, and you apply that intelligence to whatever, but you are born a certain level of smart, and that's it. I had really internalized this because my intelligence, my sense of my intelligence, was like the thing that I clung to when I was hating everything else about myself. And I would use it, like, I would be like, well, I don't need to know how to do math or how to make friends or whatever because I'm so word smart. And I was smarter than Victoria. It was just clear. Um, and at one point, oh, right, intelligence. Growth mindset is in a lot of collectivist cultures, a lot of Eastern cultures, this idea that you can get smarter and that innate intelligence, has very little to do with success, and it's usually hard work that guarantees success and also makes you smarter, that you can add to your intelligence, essentially. And that, just internalizing that changed a lot for me, because I started thinking like, oh, so I can be good at the stuff that I'm not good at if I try. And that was a real thing for me. I hadn't believed that. And at one point, I guess, she must have known that I'd been diagnosed with a nonverbal learning disability. I'm not sure, but at one point she sat me down and was like, look, whatever, you're smarter than me. Whoop-de-doo. But, like, one of us is working at a therapeutic boarding school, and one of us has been sent to a therapeutic boarding school. So maybe I can help you. And also, eventually you're gonna have to learn social skills. Or A, you'll be miserable, but B, we're not gonna let you leave. Like, you have to be able to be around other people as part of your thing. That's the plan. You know? So that really got through to me. And I did change just my attitude about, like, prioritizing the type of intelligence that I had innately and sort of lording it over, or thinking that it was superior to other kinds of intelligence, and thinking that because I was so good at words, I didn't have to be good at other things, or I couldn't be good at other things. This really ties neatly into, I struggled a lot in the beginning. I struggled a lot. I didn't know how to be in groups. I never, I always struggled with making friends. I always really struggled with just interpreting, like, facial expressions and body language and stuff. Well, I wasn't good at that. It kind of felt like I had a bag over my head when I was in a room full of people. And just my personality was, like, not great, honestly. I wasn't fun to be around. I was really difficult to be around, and my emotions were very volatile, obviously. And I was very immature in the beginning. At one point, this is an interesting story. There were two instances where, like, I got, like, in trouble. The first was, I had considered, just because I like making plans, I had thought about what I would have to do to be able to run away from the school, which is so stupid. And that was my conclusion. Like, eventually I decided that if a side door to the dorm wasn't alarmed at night, then I could get out, and then I might have enough time to get to the road and hitchhike before whatever. But I found out that it was alarmed, so I stopped the plan. And then I made the mistake of talking about that. I was like, I had been thinking about it, but I'm not going to try. And between that and there was another thing where I was just really upset. I was having, like, an autistic meltdown or something, didn't know what that was yet. And, like, really wanting to hurt myself, but I couldn't because, duh. So I drew all over. I was just, like, scrawling on my torso with pen where it couldn't be seen. But then I forgot and changed my shirt in front of somebody else, and they thought that I was doing it for attention. So I got put on what's called sight and sound after those two instances, and that's where you have to be within sight and sound of a staff member all the time, and I wasn't on social isolation, that was worse. But that lasted for a little while. I got over it. And at a certain point, once I like accepted that, as much as I, at one point I was like, look, you don't have to like it here. I don't like it here, and I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that I'm being taught, or some of it at least, especially because Victoria was homophobic and didn't like me talking about being bi or liking women. Let alone talking about feeling like a guy. That just never, I just knew that wasn't gonna fly. But, but like, my conclusion was like, okay, but but you're stuck here. So you're just, why don't you take what you can, learn what works for you, get what you can out of this, and just let the rest fall off your back, follow the fucking rules, do your time, and like, and I do need to learn how to, I do need to learn social skills. So I started applying myself in that way, and just really took off. I got like an award for something, and I did really well in school academically, so that was great. But what I think I got, what helped me even more than any therapy that I got there was journaling constantly. I was so bored all of the time. I don't think I was alone in a room for a year there. It just wasn't, like, there was one of my first nights. I went into the bedroom and I was reading by myself, and it wasn't until, like, I don't know, much later that they were like, you can't do that. You're not, you can only do that if you have reached a certain level. But, yeah, I started doing well. And another thing that was interesting, there were 4 girls who all came to Team 2 like within a few days of one another. And one of them had been in my wilderness. I completely forgot to mention her. Call her T. She reminded me of my sister in that she seemed perfect to me. Like, I wasn't jealous of her the way I was of this other girl, because she wasn't, like, she didn't stand out, she wasn't brilliant, she wasn't all that. I didn't find her interesting or anything, but, like, she did everything right, and the staff loved her. And we actually were both told that we were leaving on the same day, and she did not like that. And then, when she found out that we were going to the same school, she really didn't like that. And she really looked down on me, I think. Oh, and, I mean, especially because, like, one time, I accidentally... I was meant to be pouring water over her head because she was washing her hair, and I tested the water. It seemed fine to me, but it was way too hot for her, and she really hated that. And I think that sort of cemented our anti-friendship. So, there was Tori. Fuck. T. There was Alice, who ended up being my closest friend on the team. She was very artistic and very funny and very, very beautiful and just very fun, very smart. I liked her a lot. And then there was Jenny, Jenny and Alice had gotten there before me, and they were already, like, best friends, because Alice was, like, 15 or 16 maybe, and Jenny was, like, 14 and was a child, and just obnoxious, and, like, the 3 of them were very close, and I just didn't fit in, 'cause they had a very typical group of like female friendship. They would go to the bathroom together, etc. They wouldn't ask me. I wasn't one of them. But I still felt horrible. Yeah, I felt left out and ostracized, and, like, I didn't have any friends, because the only time I could talk to other guys was, like, once I'd earned the privilege on, like, Friday nights, we would have, like, 2 hours where we could buy candy from the commissary and socialize. And I would agonize in my journal over who to talk to and how often, because this is where I learned how to be a friend and how to have friends. And I like looking back in my journal, like I'm writing this, like I make a list of people who I want to be better friends with. And then like I'll approach this person this week at this time, and maybe this person, next week at that time, and then like 3 days later I'll check in again. Just like figuring out these a lot of stuff that is very intuitive for most people, I think. And started making friends. My breakthrough moment at Montana Academy came when we did Grease. And long story short, I was cast as Rizzo. And I was very excited. I was very confident in my voice, and I really wasn't very good at, like, I'm not going to say that I was bad at singing, but my overconfidence, my false confidence really failed me there, because false confidence isn't going to get you to sing the right note, or even to know that you're singing the wrong note. And, but I didn't realize any of this. Like, I was just trying to be confident until Victoria had a therapy session with me where she told me that people were making fun of me because I had a bad voice. And I had to lead a group with the rest of the team later where I had to be like, why didn't you tell me that I can't sing? This was 3 days before the performance, by the way. So I had a bit of a crisis. And at first, obviously, my first instinct was to quit because I was mortified. And I felt sorry for myself for a little bit, and then I got permission to go down to the basement of the dorm with a boombox and the soundtrack. And I went to the music teacher, and I was like, I need you to help me. And worked with her as much as she would, I took as much time as she would give me. And I did it. And I wasn't great, I could tell, just from some things that people said. I wasn't a star. But I was fine. And after that, that was really the catalyst for me accepting that, like, oh, there are things that I really, really love and really, really love to do that I'm not good at. And I had always just sort of only done what I was good at and tried to find things that I was good at that I also enjoyed. But I wasn't good. I have no natural skills at the guitar, first of all. And my voice wasn't bad, but I wasn't good at singing. I wasn't good at hitting the right notes. And I didn't have a vocal style. And my voice needed a lot of work. So I started taking voice lessons with a music teacher. And of course I would practice guitar and stuff. And I had done, like, we did like talent shows and shit. I had done talent shows before where I had chosen songs to sing that were way out of my depth and butchered them. So, but then okay. While this was going on, there was also a project that was going on where this English teacher was like, all right, so each of you pick a short story and adapt it into a screenplay or a script. And then we'll merge all the scripts together somehow, and then we'll put on the play. And that was kind of all he did. I took over the rest of it. Like, I took everybody's stories, everybody's scripts, and I expanded the script that I had written for my story to be part of an overarching theme of sort of failed, I called it domesticating pigeons. I won't go too deep into it, but I directed it. I wrote the whole script, I synced everything, and we had a huge cast. There were like 30 kids in this thing. And every night for months, I would be there would be no supervision, and I would direct them and just hold down the fort. And we put it on at the same talent show where I sang. sang a little song that was well within my range and got a lot of very positive feedback and an award for most improved in music and stuff like that. And then put on the play, and it went. There was so much that went wrong. So much went wrong. People just didn't learn their lines, and you can't force people to do that. But I had some great improv moments. One of the scripts was for Most Dangerous Game, and I played General Zaroff, the hunter guy, and like, which was great. I got the opportunity to speak to Congress in Missoula, because this is really important to knowledge about the troubled teen industry. A lot of these facilities were in western states, Wyoming, Montana, Utah, because a lot of those states do not have laws requiring that you have a license to conduct to have a therapeutic program. You can just buy land and just charge people to send you their kids without any sort of qualifications, essentially. And there had been a suicide at a school where, that there was negligence. I don't know the whole story. But a lot of kids from a lot of these boarding schools that were licensed were all able to say a few words to Congress about just how important it was. And the kids from Silver Spring, which was the school where the suicide had happened, they were there, but they didn't have anything to say. I'm not sure what the deal was. But that was incredible, and I don't know. Then I went to this transition house because I turned 18 there, and for people who wouldn't be returning to high school after they left Montana Academy, there was they had a house, two houses in Kalispell, one boys, one girls, where those of us who would be transitioning out of high school sort of just lived like we were adults or in college with roommates, and we would take turns cooking dinner, and I got a volunteer job just doing data entry at a museum, and just lived like that for a while. And I was only there for one summer. Myself and my friend Jeremy actually took the record for shortest amount of time in transition, because I didn't break the rules. Because I was just like, why would you do that? You're just ensuring that you stay here longer. Anyway, and yeah, graduation day and all that. That was great. Another thing that that had a really positive impact on me was we learned about family dynamics, and many of us found that we weren't the only problem, And I had really internalized this idea that if I wasn't around, everybody in my family would be happy and their lives would be perfect. So, but I learned about scapegoating in family systems. I learned about just dysfunctional dynamics and identified patients, and how identified patients or scapegoats can end up taking on the collective burden of the family or be blamed for stuff, and and my parents had to learn a little bit as well about this stuff. And it was the beginning of a very long and gradual shift in family dynamics, where I am very happy and feel very valued and do not anymore feel scapegoated or anything, except sometimes. But I guess that's kind of it. I rode horses. That was really cool. I didn't really talk about that much, but I was the only one who rode bareback. Ha. And that's the end. Callie and her interview will be coming. She had her. It's much harder to listen to. Callie's her experience she did not graduate, and that meant that she was not sent to a good school. So she had a very bad time there, and you'll hear all about it. But until then, It's been lovely chatting. I love you so very much, Internet, and I'll see you next time.